Okay, good evening, folks. Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. Just going to do a mic check. Make sure that everyone is tuned into the program this evening. Give me one quick second here, good folks. Just untangling a few wires to make sure that we're all good to go. Can everybody hear me? Kayla, she's definitely tuned in this evening. We've got Denmark, Washington tuned in as well. Chance. Hi, good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of Cayman Mall Road's live chat. Glad to see you guys are tuned in this evening. Everyone can hear me loud and clear. Wonderful. Jamelia, thanks for the confirmation. Now, I've got something a little different going on this evening because I will be using a slideshow format to kind of go through a lot of the content of what it is that we're doing. So I want to make sure that, there we go, little split screen action for you guys. I want to make sure that all of you can see the slideshow. There are times when I will show the entire slideshow presentation. And then there are other times when I will just be talking and discussing a few things. I've got my notations here. Notepad is ready to go. And I'm just trying to see how we can make this full screen for a little second here. Okay, that's not quite what I wanted to do. So just bear with me as I play around just a little bit with the screen. So, you know, at the end of the day, this is going to be a very serious discussion, but it's a discussion that needs to be had in this community. Thank you so much for the confirmation. A few people saying loud and clear. Appreciate the feedback. You know, this is a discussion that we needed to have, I think, a very, very long time ago. And unfortunately, there are very few people in this community who will have this discussion, and in particular, when it comes to Matthew Leslie. The show this evening is entitled Surviving Matthew Leslie, and it's called that because I want to draw the correlation between Matthew Leslie and R. Kelly. Now, a lot of you will be familiar with the R. Kelly situation, where for decades, this man was untouchable, seemingly untouchable, and he got away with a lot of stuff. It's a bit sad because his transgressions are not really far off from what Matthew Leslie has been doing for many years as well. So I want to make sure that I have my facts in order. I want to take my time with this episode. And to be quite frank, I want to make sure that people understand my motives and everyone is crystal clear about where I'm coming from. I am not sitting here as a person without any fear at all, because Matthew has made it very, very clear that he is a resourceful person when he wants to be. And he's also very conniving. And before I get started, let me do the little disclaimer. So I want to go back to my presentation here for a second. And you know what? Let us start with, just give me one quick second here. This is going to get a little bit tricky in terms of how I do this. Let's go ahead and get started with first things first, a little music to kick it off. Hold on one second, folks. Sorry. I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulties here, but I'm going to pull this up in another screen. This is definitely one of the benefits of having a split screen situation going on here. And of course, I've got other tools that are available to me. Because I think, when I was considering what to do this evening, there was a song that really, really came to mind. And of course, I find it to be more than super useful, and kind of how this song actually starts out. So I'm just trying to get the volume up to where you guys can actually hear it this evening. This is kind of low, so I don't know if you guys can quite hear that. I don't know. Can you guys hear that? Just give me a little shout out, a little confirmation if you're able to hear the audio. I know it's actually coming through pretty low there. So let me just try one other link here. But there's a couple audio bits and pieces in this actual presentation, so I'm hoping that the audio will improve.
I've seen you do. I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold hard truth. There is a woman we both.
All right. So the cold hard truth is what we're really here to discuss this evening. And Denmark, he's so anxious. He's saying, let's just get to it. He doesn't want to hear the music. But I think that the music is important because it kind of sums up what we're going to be covering here. But listen, let's go through the legal disclaimer first, because I'm always frank and honest with you guys. And of course, last week, Mr. Leslie, Matthew, whatever we're going to call him tonight, went to the police as soon as we put out that this expose was coming, and contacted them, had the friendly officers at the inspector level, no less, imagine that, as though they have nothing better to do, stop by and pay us a visit. And that didn't work. That tactic didn't work. We appreciated their visit. Since that tactic didn't work, by this afternoon, I think he realized that we were not going to back down. And of course, that resulted in a nice email and a hand-delivered letter from his attorneys. No problem. So let's just read a legal disclaimer to make sure we're all on the same page. The statements made in this podcast are those of the host and who has undertaken an extensive investigation into the subject. Wherever possible, we've attempted to verify stories shared with us by viewing messages sent between alleged victims and Matthew Leslie. Legal documents discussed herein have been viewed by the podcast host personally. Despite that, we're aware that he's never been charged with a criminal offense in this jurisdiction and wish to make that clear. All statements below are to be considered a matter of opinion and stories shared by others unless otherwise stated. And please be warned that this is an adult podcast, so at times adult language may actually be used. And if you're easily offended, I would say this is definitely not the podcast for you. There's an old saying, and many of you may have heard it, and you probably heard the old folks say it all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time, some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. This man, Matthew Leslie, has really developed this online social media persona that we are very, very aware of the fact that many people buy into it, and many people seem to believe every single thing that he posts on social media with, amazingly, with gospel. So what I find to be amazing about this is the truth of the matter is he is an extremely dishonest person. And time again, we have been able to demonstrate his dishonesty. The reason why we're doing this podcast is people have said, listen, let's hope that what has happened with R. Kelly, which is when they brought all of the victims under one umbrella, put them together, put it out there into one broadcast, people are finally able to say, hold on, now I see precisely what has been going on. People could see it the whole time. Let's be clear about this. Just like Matthew Leslie, there are a lot of you people out there who know his history. And I've got my notes here on my little notepad, who know his history of behavior towards underage girls, who know his history of being a complete failure financially and in his businesses. And it's always from one business venture to the next because none of them are ever successful. Those of you who know his dishonesty in almost all aspects of his life. But yet there are people who jump on social media and who attempt to defend him time and time again. And in their supposed defense of him, they attempt to attack me and my character, because apparently that's the only way to defend Matthew Leslie. And so I feel compelled to set the record straight with a couple things, and I intend to do that here today. First of all, let me just say straight up, Matthew and Leslie and I have never had any sort of a personal relationship in any way, shape, or form. People, he's not my cup of tea. I can say that with 100% assurance and no fear of contradiction. Not only is he not my cup of tea, I've never had any financial dealings with him. I've never loaned him money, and I've certainly never borrowed any from him because he simply doesn't have it. I was cordial and friendly with Matthew. And in fact, the nature of our relationship started out as a business relationship when I attempted to assist him with the administrative running of his Titan Securities company. And many of you will remember Titan Securities, which is now a defunct company. I provided administrative help, trying to get a hold of his pensions, his health insurance, and all of these things administratively that he claimed he was struggling with and that he couldn't do. In short order of providing my services and getting to know his staff at the time, and some of you logged in may even be ex-staff members of this company, you will know that Matthew was running a very poor organization. And there's only so much advice and so much help that even a professional such as myself can provide someone like Matthew Leslie. I attempted to do that. I wasn't entirely successful. So I made a quiet exit, made sure I collected my fees. And I'm like, listen, if you need anything specific, you know how to reach me. Throughout the years, Matthew and I have kept in contact on social media. We were once Facebook friends. We've kept in contact. I remember BBM back in the day, and we've kept in contact on WhatsApp. The issue with Matthew is his lies always catch up with him. And I'm a person who, in my personal circle, don't tolerate liars, don't tolerate con artists, don't tolerate pedophiles, and so on. Even though he was not in that personal circle, even by extension, there's certain behavior that if I'm a person who's going to talk to you, I want to know that you're not engaging in. Kayla, thanks for the message that you couldn't see. I'm going to read some of your comments and share some of your comments here shortly. But I just want to get through this introduction so that we can all be very clear about where this podcast is going and where I'm coming from. So it's not, a lot of you were, oh, maybe she has some obsession with him. Maybe she likes him. Come on, let's be serious here. My obsession with Matthew is that he doesn't stop. So if he doesn't stop the bad behavior, why should I stop exposing him? Seems logical to me, actually, that I shouldn't. What is amazing, and some of you are going to be surprised to know this, Matthew actually pays people to get on social media and to defend him. This is not a matter of opinion. This is a fact. And I know this for a fact because there are people in his inner circle who have shared that information with me. So certain persons, and they shall remain nameless at this time because they were pandering earlier, sending private messages, don't call my name, I don't want to be involved in this. All of a sudden, they don't want to be involved. But they're the first people to jump on social media on their pages and try to publish, oh, Sandra's obsessed with him. They make these little memes of me on a phone messaging, oh, I'm in love with Matthew Leslie, I miss you. Sure, I do. People like Carrie Tibbetts is actually on his payroll, and her name I can call. And my sources are solid. So when I call names tonight, rest assured that my sources are solid. There will be a lot of times, unfortunately, that I cannot call names because my objective is to always protect victims. And there are a lot of victims in this situation. There are a lot of people who have been hurt by this man. And that's very, very unfortunate. So here's how we're going to do this. Let's get back to our presentation. We're going to have a look at a few things. So let's advance the slides a little bit. Occasionally we see people speaking out against Matthew. So this Nicola Thompson, I don't know who she is. This was a couple years ago. He actually sent this to me ironically in a WhatsApp conversation. And she calls a spade a spade back then. And she said, some people like to make shit up just to talk and get attention. Just saying, real talk. Keep the talk going. Highly unlikely this conversation even took place. I don't even recall what this was about. And of course, he responds to her, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what your intentions are, blah, blah, blah. So he has created this online persona that a lot of us have bought into. He's a philanthropist. He's always helping people. He's connecting donations for people in Haiti. People's homes in Windsor Park get burned down. The first person on the scene is Matthew, collecting donations for those poor people so that their homes can get rebuilt. Somebody gets shot in Cayman. Somebody gets killed. The first person to post it on Facebook is Matthew. Oh, this person was my best friend. And I helped them out when they needed a job. You know, they were involved in a gang and I really tried to steer them right. And I tried to do this, I tried to do that. It's always about him trying to get attention for himself. And that is because, to be quite frank, that is what narcissists do. But to set the tone for, to make sure I'm very, very clear on what my intentions are and what's going on here, let's just break it down. So I've got screenshots of conversations between myself and Matthew. I've got audio notes from this man, and all of that will be shared this evening. So here is a screenshot of Matthew. This was back in July of 2015, as you guys can see, 4 years ago almost, sending me a note. I'm the person in green, so you see that I have very little to say. Saying, I'm about to blow things wide open in Belize and Cayman relations. You may want to consider going there and selling your internet TV. They're a developing nation that really reminds me of Cayman in the 80s and 90s. I'm being appointed as the honorary consul for Belize here in Cayman, and one of the mandates is to reestablish relations, including travel and trade, as well as investment on both ends. Now, we know that never happened. Let's be honest here. Has Matthew been appointed as the honorary consulate? No, because as usual, this man is just full of stories and full of lies. He lives in a fantasy world that is of his own making and that is amazing when it comes to creativity. I don't even know how he manages to keep his story straight, to be quite frank and honest, because it must be a full-time job. But let's keep it moving. Matthew has a history of questionable behavior when it comes to a lot of things that he does. So let me just go back now to showing you this PowerPoint presentation. After this, I'm going to take some of your comments. So for example, this is him sending, and then I discover through my sources, because you guys know, if there's one thing we can say about Ma Road, is Ma Road has sources. Somebody sends me a picture of Matthew getting married. And I'm just like, what? Matthew got married? Now, this is a man that posts everything on Facebook. So if he has to go to the bathroom, he's posting on Facebook that he's at the bathroom. and something's going on and blah, blah, blah. So I thought it very strange and very peculiar that he's gotten married and we don't know anything about it. All these Facebook friends, are you for real? So I said to him, hey, how come you didn't tell me you got married? I caught him off guard. Here's his response. Sorry, guys, the volume is very low on these audio notes. But he essentially says, hold on a second. Just 1 second here. So he says, who told you that? Ha, 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 ha. And he's like, oh, give me a second. I'm around a bunch of people. So he wouldn't have the conversation, what's up? What he did was he called me. And in his usual fashion, as number K-Man's perhaps biggest liar, he tells me, oh, well, I didn't want anybody to know because first he claims that the ex-wife at this time, now she's his ex-wife, that her passport was expiring. And really it was just a formality. And, you know, later on they were going to have this ceremony and it wasn't a big deal that they'd gotten married, you know, and he didn't want to tell anybody because he felt like if he disclosed this when they had the other ceremony, people wouldn't want to come and people wouldn't want to give him gifts. And I'm thinking to myself, cut the shit, dude. That's the most lame excuse I've ever heard. But I'm like, all right, whatever. You just play around with the lies sometimes, right? You just keep it moving. So then he says to me, well, at that point, I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm going to be the first one to put it on social media. And I put it out there. Congrats, Matthew, you got married. Woohoo! Oh, man, he didn't like that too much. Oh, well, too bad. Let's keep it moving, folks. Narcissists. I'll give you a good definition of people here who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. This grandioseness about them, bigger than life, lack of empathy for other people, a need for constant admiration. This is a person who everything he does in this community to help someone, he must put it on social media. Frequently described as self-centered, manipulative, demanding, right? They may concentrate on grandiose fantasies. But behind the scenes, they can be a real terror. So since we were just talking about him in his capacity of getting married in a secret marriage, we all know how much of a shit show that turned out to be. And that he was just basically using this poor girl for political gain to make himself look good. So during the election, all of the women that he had been harassing for years, all the underage girls that he's been messaging and trying to pay money to show their breasts, all of a sudden, they were going to forget all of that just because you married a really nice looking girl. Makes a lot of sense, right? But behind the scenes, he was paying for it, still out there paying for women because something's wrong with this man. If he's not paying for sexual favors, he's not happy. He had a wife that was more than happy to be in a physical relationship with him, apparently. But that relationship never happened. That marriage was never consummated. And that is why she was able to get an annulment. Think about that for a minute. But at the same time, he could be in his hospital bed at Shetty for surgery he got for free because he promised them to do a show about his weight loss journey and to promote their facility, messaging some girl who's sidelining as a prostitute, I guess, in the Cayman Islands, right? $200 in cab fare. Some famous words in the Cayman Islands. The relationship was all over the place and quickly fell apart. But let's have a listen to the true Matthew Leslie, the narcissist that some of us have really come to know. You want to hear the type of person Matthew really is? Let's listen to these voice notes for a second. Just give me a second here, folks. Just pulling it up. Modern technology kind of slow sometimes.
And Claire, why are people messaging me saying that you just post something on Facebook? What are you posting on Facebook, Claire?
All right, so let me put this series of voice notes, there are 5 of them, in context, right? This was after they had separated. The girl was trying to move on with her life. A lot of people contacting her about his debts, his personal debts, which of course she knew nothing about when she entered the marriage. So she simply put up a post to say, I'm no longer with Mr. Leslie. We're in the process of getting a divorce, an annulment, legally an annulment. And so I'm not responsible for any of his debt. And this was his response. So that was the first message. He sent her 5 messages in total, and they continued.
Like, do you have some freaking attention-seeking issue or something, Claire? You know, no. Fuck what people ask, Claire. It's none of their business. And why are you gonna post that? I'm posting when I'm fucking here in the limelight again, getting ready to do a big event, and now that you're gonna distract people with that kind of bullshit post, take that fucking shit down. All right? You do not need any more fucking riff in the fucking books with me, all right? So take the fucking shit down. It's no one's fucking business.
So here's a dude who lives on social media and posts everything on social media, telling his wife, what his soon-to-be ex-wife, what to do. Take it down. You know, are you seeking attention? But it gets better. It gets way better, folks. It just continues.
You damn well know it's done with fucking malintent. What? Did fucking Sandra coach you in that shit again? What kind of bullshit this is, right? Seriously. Fucking seriously, Claire. People are fucking messing. I'm waking up to your message, and I'm looking at other people's fucking messages, and they're like, Matthew, did you really have to fucking do that shit? Did she have to wait until you're back in the news again with the carnival or something positive, and now she's gonna fucking stir shit up? Seriously, Claire? Do you ever fucking think about stuff like? Come on, man.
But he doesn't stop there. He continues, and it gets a whole lot more interesting.
I have to explain every fucking thing on Facebook. Jesus fucking Christ, woman. Come on. Let our personal lives be fucking personal. It doesn't have to be the whole fucking public's lives. All right? You know what? Come and get your shit right now. I'm throwing the shit outside right now. You don't come and get it. This is pissing me the fuck off. Take that shit down. Jesus Christ, by the end of the day, that's going to be the fucking topic again. Come on, Claire. Use some sense. You see what we went through already?
Okay, so here's a man who lives in social media, who posts all of his personal business in social media, questioning his ex-wife as to why she was doing it. Wow. Narcissistic much?
Between now and Monday, someone in immigration is going to call me about you, Claire, saying, Matthew, she's been at your house for so long, the marriage has ended. Why did you not send in the letter to go ahead and get the paperwork canceled? You know what's going to happen next? They're going to wonder what you've been doing to live for the last 2 months. They're going to ask, well, how's she been taking care of herself? How's she maintaining an income? And you know what they're going to do, Claire? They're going to go hunting to see where you're working at. And if they catch you, they're going to arrest you, and then you're going to get shipped off the island, Claire. Think.
Wow. Here's the amazing thing about this. Matthew didn't consummate the marriage, went out there cheating on the wife, created a public spectacle. He did all of this. She didn't do anything wrong. Then he's yelling and screaming at her, calling her all sorts of names. He places her in a position where she couldn't get a work permit approved because she's married to Caymanian, and they were not going to give her any status under what appeared to immigration to be a sham marriage. So she was left in this country for at least 6 months, unable to work and support herself, relying on the goodness of people in this community and people that befriended her, such as myself, just to say, you know what, whatever's going on, you shouldn't be having to go through this, and this isn't right. How can we help? And anyone that helped her became part of the targeted hate. And as you can hear in that message, oh, did Sandra put you up to this? She's a grown woman. What would I be doing putting her up to it? Not only that, but he refused to sign the documents for the annulment. This is a man who was putting on a carnival at the time, just like I said in the voice notes. Oh, now I'm back in the news for something good, because you know what? It's always about him. That's the narcissist in him. I'm putting on a carnival. What are you doing? Why are you putting this message out there? It's all about me. I want to read some of your messages because I know, my gosh, it's already 130 comments. I won't be able to get through all of them. So let's just start at the top here. Whoa, this is a lot of messages, so bear with me. Nisha says, Nisha has her cup of tea. Look like she's got double espresso going on there. Colby, champagne glasses. Denmark says, poor girl. Patrice says, not quite sure what this means, but Tanika Powell, not true. I think she's having a mental breakdown. Not sure who she's referring to, but I'm crystal clear. Tanika, Patrice, I thought she had new tea. We're doing a compilation here, Tanika. If you tuned in early, you would have seen that. Miona Gooding says, Lord. Loretta is having a good laugh. Jasmine says it's pissing him the F off. Take that shit down. So I'm not quite sure I understand Denmark's comment about BBC. Kayla says that he needs some soap for his mouth. Andre, I think is how you pronounce it, says legalize weed, less stress. Well, weed doesn't fix a lot of what's going on here. Jasmine says that his voice doesn't match his face. Andre says facts. And there's a few other comments. Malcolm says, where is Stephen Tatum when you need him? Stephen, where are you? Let's just keep it moving here, folks. We only got an hour and we got a lot of stuff to go through. Only 1 hour and there's just only so much. So in terms of him being a sexual predator, and I want to make sure that you guys understand that anybody who knows me knows that this is one of my real pet peeves. It's not even a pet peeve. I don't care who you are. If you are a sexual predator, especially when it comes to underage girls or boys for that matter, I'm going to have a real issue with you. And this is where my issues began with Matthew, because after it was disclosed that this whole fiasco with the wife happened, it came to my attention and underage girls approached me with evidence of his behavior. In the previous election, I had people come to me, but they were all adults. Okay, so I was like, if you're an adult and someone approaches you with this kind of behavior, deal with it. You need to talk to them. You need to say, listen, you know, cut this out. This isn't appropriate. I don't want you talking to me that way. That's one way of dealing with it. But at the end of the day, when you start targeting our children, the most vulnerable in this community, yes, I'm going to take an issue with you. And I'm definitely going to have a problem with that. And that is when I stopped all communication with Matthew, when I discovered that that was his disgusting behavior. So let me put that in context. 13-year-old girls. I've had several of them come forward. Here he is sending me a message about someone else who's alleged to have sexually molested 10 children. You guys might remember this some years back. Some of you are claiming this is old tea. No one's ever shared these voice notes, these messages, none of this before. So this isn't old tea, folks. This is very, very much new evidence. But of course, you guys don't want to hear it. Somebody molesting your children, and you're not the least bit bothered because you're thinking, oh, that's not my child. What do I care? Well, you need to care. Because someone like this man has been in this community for a very long time. And he's not going to stop. You know why? Because most of you don't have the balls to call a spade a spade. Most of you don't have the balls. You'd rather sit down and feel pity for him because he gets on the talk show talking about, oh, he's overweight and he's depressed. I don't give a shit about any of that when it comes to molesting your children. He's a predator. He messages these girls. He offers them money. He goes after vulnerable girls. I'll say allegedly, but I have seen the messages with my own two eyes. There are things that I have seen him say that I cannot undo. The predatory behavior continues time and time again. And it's like the same MO. Oh, I'm just, you know, I'm a party guy. So if this offends you, well, I'm sorry, but I'm a party guy. Really, dude? That is absolutely no excuse whatsoever. So nobody in this community should be surprised to know how I feel about child molesters or wannabe child molesters, including Matthew. And so here's a conversation that we had. This was way back in 2015. And this is what he says to me by way of voice note.
I just read it on the K Compass and I said to myself, oh shit, you wait till Kitron sees this.
Right. So that's me. The man is well aware of my position. But all this time, he was hiding in plain sight, giving me information on other people, right? Calling them effing disgusting. Primary school children. Well, he needs to talk about the 13-year-old girls that have since come to me and talked about his behavior. 13-year-old girls. Let's listen to a few more voice notes if we can. I'm sorry that the volume's low, but let's work with it. All right, so this next series of voice notes, and I'm just gonna let you guys go and listen to this yourself. You can re-listen to what he said during his interview on K-Man 27 Crosstalk Show. This man essentially claimed that if there was any evidence out there, he wants it to be put out there. If they're underage girls, make them prove that he's messaged them. Well, we have done that. Seriously, here are some of the messages. Let's have a look. What do we got here? Hello, Sandra. I just wanted to personally thank you for voicing the truth and not being scared about Matthew Leslie. I've been harassed from him from 2011. At least she was 17 years old. We know that it goes way younger than that. Says that she's hesitant to speak up. Like most victims, very hesitant to speak up. But you know what? This isn't his first time at the rodeo. All these girls that came forward and told me their personal stories, what we need to do is examine how far this behavior goes back to. In 2007, Matthew used to work for the RCIPS as a police officer. Why was he let go from the force? Someone called it a blue stripe or something, was a terminology that was used to describe his exit from the police force. Let me just read this real quick. Again, these are people who reach out to us with information. Good morning, Matthew Leslie. This was just last week. Do you know why he was released from serving in the RCIPS when he was a blue stripe? If not, you should ask. Yeah, all of you watching this should be asking that question. Allegations of inappropriate sexual behavior with him and another officer with women who were actually in lockup at the time. So those of you who keep going on and on about they don't care, you need to care, because this could have been one of your relatives. The behavior dates back, he went to Texas. Oh, really? I'm supposing a lot of you don't know that he was escorted on a plane in an orange jumpsuit by the US Marshals to say, go back to the Cayman Islands. Check out that criminal history from Texas. It's all fun and games until you get down to the point and you get serious. Paying women for sexual favors, and then when they leave, they go outside and they have to throw up because despite them needing the money, they were disgusted by what they had to do for it. Those are the hard, cold facts, folks, that all of you need to be aware of. Some people have a fetish. Yes, some people have to pay for it in order to get their kicks. I don't know. Let's go to some of your comments now. Over 300 people tuned in. Let's have a look. Tom says, I wish I could post the MJ popcorn eating GIF. Most of you are familiar with that one already. Andre says that someone spiced my spliff. Boy, I don't smoke and I don't drink. I did bring my K-Brew. I bought a bottle of K-Brew today. I'm going to be giving this away. So anybody who wants a bottle of K-Brew, hit me up. I'll donate this to one of the viewers tonight. And we are going to be giving away, in case you haven't noticed, one of our lovely Cayman Mall Road mugs this evening as well. I don't drink and I don't smoke. Kizzy Ann says, "That me say, real papi show." All right. Reading some more of your comments. Denmark says, "That's our problem. We post everything on Facebook. We must get effed at times." Well, you know what? When you try to create this persona, because again, it's all about this narcissistic tendency of wanting to create a certain image for people to believe you're a philanthropist, you're so wonderful, you're so this, you're so that. When you put your business out on social media, is it no wonder then that when people have to address you, they go to social media, they go to that very same platform that you use all the time? So once the shit hit the fan during the last election, and I cut Matthew off and I started calling him out on his repeated behavior, both old and new. Every once in a while, he's going to jump on the bandwagon. If I put one post, he's going to do 10 about me, hating on me. Some of you fools, and that's what I'm going to call you because it is a foolish thing to comment about how I'm obsessed with him and I must want to marry him and I must like him and blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about the financial mess that this man is in. He's never had a successful business. All jokes aside, many of you thought for years that he owned K-Brew. Nope. Don't own it. Never owned it. Never had any shares. Gail, I'm not sure why you can't see the screenshots. We'll put some of them back up here for you. Sorry, Jasmine. Jasmine says she's actually trying to read the screenshots. My apologies. I'm trying to leave them up as long as possible. So this man has never had a successful business in his life. He had Titan Securities, which, as you can see from this screenshot now, has been defunct since 2015. It was struck off by the registrar. You know why something gets struck off, folks? It gets struck off for non-payment of fees. That's why something is struck off. Now, let's have a look at what this means, right? Keep this in context. Couple lawsuits here that we should probably have a look at. There are lawsuits in summary court from his staff, previous staff that worked at the security company that he did not pay pension nor health insurance for the entire time that they were employed. Those are lawsuits that are on record that he actually lost. Couldn't quite put my hand on those, but they exist. So we have several lawsuits here. The Cayman Islands Development Bank. Patrice, boy, you're defending Matthew hard tonight. What's amazing is, like I said, Matthew gets a lot of people to defend him because he pays them money. Patrice, let's hear it. Has he paid you money to get on here and defend him? Makes me wonder. This isn't his personal business. The Cayman Islands Development Bank is a government-run bank. That's the people's money. Every single time that business fails, we all have to bail it out in one way, shape, or another. It's his business that he's molesting people's children. It's his business that he's messaging underage girls wanting to pay them for sexual favors. If you really believe, Patrice, that is his business, boy, there's no hope. There's really no hope for us here in the Cayman Islands. This is why so much stuff gets swept under the rug, because someone like him can continue to have people defend him no matter what he does. And he has done a lot, as I have already demonstrated here this evening. People still defend him. If you're a 13-year-old girl and you're watching this right now, are you not going to think to yourself, why would I go to the police? Why am I going to step forward? When people like Patrice are like, oh, well, if he's messaging me as a 13-year-old girl, or he's giving me money because he wants sexual favors, that's his business. That's the community that we live in. Seriously. That's right, Sora. When you believe you have money, you can get away with anything. Except he doesn't have his own money. He gets it from other people. Let's look at these lawsuits. Cayman Islands Development Bank sued him and his company. Over $60,000 he borrowed from the bank and never paid back one red penny. Let's not stop there. Ella Archibald, that's his own grandmother, sued him in 2013. He borrowed money from her, almost $30,000 to pay for some surgery he claimed that he needed to have. And guess what? Every single month, to pay that bill, the deductions were made from her paycheck. This is an elderly woman who was going into her retirement and needed her retirement money. Never paid a red cent back. So she had to take her own grandson to court. Folks, go on Offshore Alert. The documents are there. His mother, who has publicly gotten on social media and called us all sorts of names, have defended him. And this same mother signed a promissory note that she would pay this loan. And guess what? She never paid it. Let's not forget the lawsuit from last year. Christian Guzman, a millionaire fitness guy in the US, gets conned in by Matthew. Come to the Cayman Islands. Oh, I get you a free high-paying suite at some hotel. And all of a sudden, I've got tons of money. Come ride with me. He bought into the facade. And as a result, he lost $125,000. People work hard for their money, whether they're millionaires or not. All right. Edwin says, I think you need to put on a helmet. Ma, road rocks soon start to fly. Denmark says, yes, it was about in 2011 at Titan. So I'm not sure exactly what that comment means. Catherine, no personal relationship. You were his friend 100%. Catherine, you're back again. You were here last week. Allow me to set the record straight with you. We were acquaintances. Like many people, and I've got hundreds of them, thousands on social media and hundreds on my WhatsApp, I will talk to people and engage in a conversation. Were we friends? Not at all. He's never been inside of my house. I've never been inside of his house. I've never been in a car with him. Does that sound like a friendship to you? Catherine, after this broadcast, I'm going to block you today because you are clearly a troll. How do you define a friendship? How is that 100% friendship to you? I'm just wondering how in your mind that makes sense. I used to feel sorry for the guy when I would cook Sunday dinner and he'd say, hey, can I get a plate of food or 3 plates of food? Supposedly he had friends that wanted my food. And I said, stop by. He never came inside because I don't allow that unless you are a friend. Thank you very much, Catherine Willman. So multiple lawsuits show and paint a picture, but it gets better. There are people in this community, businessmen, physicians, politicians, people that Matthew have borrowed money from under all sorts of pretenses. And I don't want to mention their names because I do not want to get them involved. There's this one now that I'm showing you that's on the screen. Let me just pull this up so that you can see this. This is relating to the Pacquiao event. Again, this remains outstanding. There's this poor lady right now in the Philippines who will never see her money again because Matthew isn't going to pay this. Every excuse in the book. Let's read through some of the messages, some of the WhatsApp messages here. She said, okay, this was back in March of, I think this was 2015. Is there any way to get the money? I mean, I've been waiting for almost 2 months now, Right now, extra cash in hand went to cover the Oprah event. Oh, yes. We've all seen Oprah come to the Cayman Islands with Matthew Leslie, haven't we? Don't hold your breath, folks. Oprah's not that stupid. These guys hit me up hard financially. We're talking about US $205,000 in total. If Matthew Leslie had $205,000 in cash to give to anybody, don't you think he would actually have a mortgage, a house to live in, a decent car of his own, like something to call his own, not living in an apartment sharing with another couple and your ex-wife at the time? So she writes again, February 20th, 2017. This is a follow-up reminding you still owe me the $7,000. Please pay the balance. He goes back and forth. Notice the messages on the right-hand side. All of this. 6 months have gone by. Where's my money? Please pay me, pay me, pay me. Hey, Bubba, I need the money for my house. Can you please send over ASAP? This woman is begging for her money. June the 25th, June the 9th, June the 2nd, June the 30th. No response from him. He disappears when he owes people money. Typical behavior, right? But this is someone that we're going to hold up in this community as being a pillar of, I don't know what, con artistry. Some of your comments. Andre, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I think it's Andre, says, damn good at her job too. Well, let's continue on, folks. 306 of you tuned into this broadcast right now. The messages go on. So let me just explain what happens. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been sick. Every time it's sick, it's a surgery. Oh, you know, we're gonna put on another event, so I'm gonna be in touch real soon. After the election, I'm gonna be in touch. Nothing ever happens. Oh, I need more documentation. Apologies, I haven't been getting your messages. They were going in my junk mail folder. WhatsApp messages going to junk mail. Now that's funny. We canceled our July and September events due to talent commitments elsewhere. Now I'm getting ready for this winter carnival. You guys remember that? And so much has been committed. Oh, election is coming up. I can't pay my bills right now. It goes on and on. You know, we can laugh about this stuff and we think this is a joke, but these are real people that are being impacted. Here's a check for $13,000 that he wrote to a young lady here in the Cayman Islands who owns a small business. She gave him that money because he promised a 25% return on her investment in this carnival. And as a result, she was not able to open up other businesses that she had planned because she actually needed that money. So she attempted to speak with the carnival investor, Margie Geddes, because she's a millionaire. And she funded the carnival. Matthew didn't have any money of his own. She funded it and a few other people funded it and they had a hard time getting their money back. And a lot of people still haven't been paid back. The carnival company contacted us. They were owed over $100,000. So she writes and says, oh, I saw you responded to Cayman Mall Road Post. It gave me the opportunity to find you and send you this message. I invested funds into Matthew's carnival venture as well, and I was promised a return on my funds, but instead, all I received was a bounce check. I had another investment that I missed out on, and would have given me a greater return. Matthew promised I would receive the funds back in 3 weeks, which of course never transpired. I know a lot of people dislike Sandra. However, people do reach out to her to expose Matthew and tons of others like him. Since you seem to have such confidence in him, could you ask him to clear up the $13,000 that's owed to me? Guess what? Still not paid. There's a copy of the bounce check. Let's keep it moving. Sponsorship list for the Cayman Carnival. We pointed this out before. All of these companies listed here, all these nonprofits, Cayman Blood Bank, Lions Club, Rotary, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, West Bay PTA, Prospect PTA, Georgetown PTA, Health City Cayman Islands, Red Bay, Cayman Photography Club claims that almost $200,000 was given to these individuals, but yet these individuals have a very different story. Miss Marva, who is the president for one of the PTAs, says, sorry for the typos in my message above, as the fingers are a bit fast and chunky, but I simply want the message to be clear. Matthew Leslie never gave any promotional or free tickets to Prospect Primary School PTA for the carnival. All tickets that our students or children use are purchased by their parents. I am therefore at this time instructing Matthew Leslie to remove Prospect Primary PTA name from that list. I also would like all of the other PTAs to confirm if they did or did not receive these tickets. Well, we've spoken to all of them. None of them received that information. Someone just said that it's hard to see some of these messages. My apologies for that. Paul Tyler, he owes me $20,000 and 3 years later has yet to pay it. From what I'm seeing, this is not a one-off, but a consistent pattern of behavior. You guys remember from Woody's talk show, a guy called in, said, Matthew owes me money. Can you please ask him to pay? He laughed it off. Let's continue. These are the carnival people reaching out. Hi, I'd like to reach out to you. So for those of you who think this is some kind of personal thing with Matthew and, you know, we're going after him because we have nothing better to do, trust me, it isn't. People reach out to us. This one says, hi, would like to reach out to you. I'm one of the managers of the company that brought the carnival rides for the winter carnival. Several rides got damaged on the return trip home, and my company still has not been paid in full for the rental of our equipment. Calls and messages to Matthew Leslie have not been returned. Someone recommended I reach out to you guys to maybe put a story out there. We said, yes, sir. We're not surprised at all. He's a con artist. Tell me more and what evidence you have. Because despite him having a history, we always want to see the evidence before we speak on it, okay? So he says, as far as damaged equipment, I have pictures. I have ways to prove that he still owes us, trying to think of the best way to do this and what info I can give out, because they're probably going to take legal action. I don't know if you guys can see this picture here in the middle with the Range Rover. That's the chat between you. So as soon as he got the first batch of money from Marjorie Geddes, the millionaire, he took it and goes out and purchases a burgundy Range Rover, which is new to him, secondhand, spot cash, I understand. And he tells this woman, if you invest the $13,000 with me, I'm going to put my Range Rover down as collateral. And she says, negative. Oh, yes. She's getting new disc and ab stuff on her this week. So he can go out there and flash himself with a new car while he owes all these people all this money. They take it to court. They get a default judgment. And he still doesn't pay, because how it works is this. He doesn't have a legit job. What he did for K-Brew was marketing. They fired him during the election. They've never made any comments, but we know he was fired. So what he now does is every single promotion, he'll go and get investors. He uses, it's almost like a Ponzi scheme. He uses investors' money to then pay off a few investors that are really hard on him and hard on the trail, hot on the trail, exposing him. He'll pay a few of them off, and then he uses that money to live 5-6 months at a time, goes to Mariposa, handing out $25, $50 bill to the girls that work there. And then this is the foolishness. When we start to get on him, this is what he does. Oh, you can't talk to Cayman Mall Road. You can't talk to Sandra, because if you do that, you'll never get paid. Here, listen to this message. As a follow-up from yesterday, I went by Miracle Brokers, but neither Irma or Chris was there. I will keep at it. Again, always throwing around other people's names. At the same time, very disturbing tabloid media has surfaced stemming from Greg speaking with them. Very disappointed, to say the least, and the slander being spread from that is not very positive. I passed this information on to my lawyers, and they will advise me accordingly. Not sure what his intentions were, but this is not in good taste. Nonetheless, we'll keep on Irma as promised and revert to you. It's not slander and it's not libel if it's true. And this is what he needs to get a grip on. It's the truth. Here's another picture of him showing a $50,000 check that he got from the Cayman Islands government. So again, Patrice, you're claiming that this is none of our business. This is the man's business. Huh. I'm going to take issue with you because $50,000, instead of being paid to someone like Matthew for these events, could have well been utilized to help a lot of other people, a lot of children. You know what $50,000 could do? Seriously. $50,000, Cayman Islands dollars from the government, from the peoples, from the coffers of the people. But yet this is his business. It's his business. Why? Caymanians, we need to wake the F up. Some of the stuff that is allowed to happen in this community makes me uncomfortable. This was sent to someone that he owed money to, again, to show them, oh yeah, I soon pay you. I'm going to soon pay you. Don't worry. You're going to soon get paid. Because now I've got this $50,000 check from the Cayman Islands government. They're sponsoring my event, so, you know, it's only a matter of time before you get paid. Right. Time's almost up, folks. Let's keep it moving. I think that's the end of our slideshows there. So there have been countless reports. There have been countless issues with this man over the years. Someone said 50 grand can buy a lot of food. It can buy a lot more than food. Trust me. So this is the last time that I am really hoping to have this conversation about this man, because I think at the end of the day, his history speaks for itself. There are hotels that he's done events for that he's no longer welcome there, because of the trail of unpaid bills. There are vendors, companies who have done business with him, who provided him with a line of credit for their liquor. There are events that bartenders have worked for. There's his defunct carnival. There are people who rented space from him from that carnival. He's trying to get $1 million payout from the insurance company. Meanwhile, he collected money from people who were there, vendors who were there, had to pay to be there. And they were there, rain or shine, and had to pay him. But yet he could put in a claim with the insurance company to say, oh, it rained that day, so I didn't make any money. How you didn't make money when you were charging these vendors? They paid you regardless. They had to pay you. Where is he? Well, since we have been exposing him since the launch of Cayman Mall Road, he has been keeping a very relatively low profile. He's still trying to go and hit people up for money, business people in this community. And I can't tell you who they are because they are big people, big names, promising that when he gets his $1 million payout, he'll be able to pay them. But they've wised up now. They said, hold on. Thanks to Cayman Mall Road, I know better. You got that right. He is making more money than me and you, but not the right way. So I don't know about you, Andre, but I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I was taking people's money under those types of terms. My point being is his gig here, financially especially, is up. Nobody in their right mind is going to loan this dude money. That's why now he's gone to Belize. He's got his Belizean connections. He's trying to borrow money there. Oh, did I forget to mention the 2 women that he borrowed money from in Belize? $100,000 total, and hasn't paid that back either? That was just a few months back. Yep. One was done by the credit card transaction. Another one sent the money by wire. They'll never see that money again. Police are sitting back. They are well informed. They know what's going on. Financial crime knows about this. They know of the allegations of when money is collected under the auspices of donations for people. A lot of times it doesn't reach those people. Let me ask you a question. Whatever happened to that entire, what's it called, container full of donations for Haiti? Do you know that it never left the Cayman Islands? Seriously, it never left the Cayman Islands. That's contrary to what Patrice wants you to think. That's stuff that people like me donated. You may have donated. It sat on a field somewhere until the owners of the property say, you've got to move this container from here because, oh, he jumps up, again, narcissistic behavior. Oh, I'm going to do great for these people of Haiti. Give me your donations, blah, blah, blah. Fills a container, but no money, no contingency plan, no way of actually getting it to Haiti. So the allegation, the talk on the street is that that container sat there, and during the election, because you remember when that Haiti disaster was, during the election, he was dipping into the container, taking stuff out to try to buy votes. That's the allegation on the street. That's the talk. That's sad. Reynolds says this needs to be longer than an hour. Unfortunately, an hour is all I got this evening, but I got to be honest with you. I could go on and on and on. The messages that I've received just from the underage girls alone, that could have been an hour show on its own. So my point of this was to compile and put everything together in one singular location, one singular episode. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to like what I've said. And I'm not doing this for kicks. I'm trying to make sure that people are informed. Keep your underage children away from people like this. Check their messages. Don't loan people like this money. I don't care if he's telling you you're going to get a 50% return on your money. Don't do it. Because it's almost like a Ponzi scheme. It's taken from Peter to pay Paul, except as we see from Paul Tyler, he's never gotten paid. He's still waiting to get his money back. The bottom line is this. I have no personal axe to grind with Matthew Leslie. He's never actually personally done me a thing. He's never said an inappropriate thing to me. Because you know what them old people say? Dape know who to scare. And that I honestly believe. I'm just going to bring up something here because I want to end this on a positive note this evening. So I don't have an axe to grind with him on a personal level at all. And I just want to make that clear. No, we were not friends. We were acquaintances. And like I said, I have got all of the messages. You're free. Anyone can come and read my WhatsApp messages and see the nature of the relationship. I have talked to this young man. I took him more as like, almost like a little brotherly figure, someone that I could try to give advice to. During the first election, I said, Matthew, these girls are coming to me saying that you're this kind of a predator. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Oh, no, that's because they wanted money from me. This is someone who wanted something. And because I wouldn't give it to them, now they're saying this. I said, whatever it is, there's too many people out there saying the exact same thing. Too many women for you to ignore this issue, and you need to address it, and you need to address the behavior. The behavior has been going on way before I knew Matthew, and it has continued long after that. He cannot help himself. R. Kelly could not help himself. When does it stop? That's the God's honest question I have for you guys here this evening. At what point do the people in the Cayman Islands say enough is enough? I agree with you, Dawn, that these girls should be taking this to the police, but they don't, because they're up against someone who appears to be bigger than life, who's created this social media presence, that he's untouchable. Every single time he knows it's coming down the pipeline from me, he runs to the police, and the police entertain this foolishness instead of really solving some crime. So Don wants to claim that I'm a bitter woman who's overly obsessed with the man. Why would I be overly obsessed with him? State your case. If you really think that, Dawn, why would I be overly obsessed with him? On what grounds? You can look at me and you can look at Matthew Leslie. You think it's a sexual thing? Let's just be honest here. What's obsession? He has a lifestyle that I want? No, Bobo. Don't mix it. Don't get it wrong. I am personally happy. I have a wonderful family. I have a great supportive husband. I have a child. I have a home that I paid my mortgage on. The bank owns it, so I'm not going to claim to own it. I have a business. I'm okay. I'm good. I don't need to be obsessed with Matthew Leslie. What I'm obsessed with is why the people in this community, time and time again, continue to ignore these stories. They would rather say, Sandra's a bitch, Sandra's obsessed with Matthew, make up stories about me, blah, 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 than see the truth for what it is. Address the behavior. Why is this man allowed to walk around amongst young children? Why is he putting on, knowing what he does, why is he putting on a carnival? Seriously, why is this dude putting on a carnival where these young girls are going dressed in their little shorts and hanging out with each other? A lot of them unsupervised because parents think, oh, there's no harm in sending my children to a carnival. When the person who's put on the carnival and who's running it has a history of predatory behavior from even when he was on the RCIPS. So you guys talk about, I'm the one with the issue. I don't even know what to say. I'm just flabbergasted that people in this community have simply not woken up. And you don't want to see it. You don't want to see these predators. Just like nobody wanted to believe R. Kelly. Now he's got another 10 counts. And this time his behind is going to jail. There's an old saying that you can do what you want. Let me just pull this one up because I can never remember how these old people used to say it. But this is something I think that we need to be very, very mindful of. Some of you may remember hearing the older heads saying this, that you can do what you want when you want, but not for as long as you want. At some point, you got to pay the piper. And at some point, I think it's fair to say that Matthew's gig has got to be up, even in a community as naive as this one. There just has to be a point when we say enough is enough. And on that note, folks, I'm going to say goodnight because I do have a family and I do have a life. And the things that I try to do for this community, you guys might not appreciate. And it doesn't really bother me one way or the other because I will keep doing it. For every one girl that has come forward and said, you know what? You have helped me. You have prevented my child from being associated with this person. To me, that is a win-win situation, even if it's just one victim that has been saved from this predatory behavior. So on that note, somebody was just asking what's going on for Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the UK and that proposition that they made the other day. We're going to have some guests on joining us here on the live stream studio. So I invite you to tune in. All 300 of you that tuned in this evening, over 300 persons, thank you very, very much. You know, some of you have negative things to say, but, you know, it really doesn't bother me. It's like water in a duck's back. We're going to just keep it rolling, folks. And I'm going to leave this song, special dedication to the topic of the evening, Matthew Leslie.
I ain't fucking with you. You look dumb ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you. I got a million trillion things I'd rather fucking do than to be fucking with you. Little stupid ass, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, bitch. I don't give a fuck about you or anything that you do. I don't give a fuck about you or anything for real. Fuck how you feel. Fucking 2 cents a minute, going towards the bill. Yeah, and every day I wake up celebrating shit. Why?